welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, we're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Our television stations, Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T, Channel 99. On the radio, of course, on 89.3 Lakes FM, as I said, and on 88.1 WBFH out of Bloomfield Hills, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. We're on the web, civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link, or view us at the top right of our homepage in that small player. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15 and facebook.com/LakesFM. And as always, joining me here in the studio is Ronnie Dahl.
Happy Tuesday.
Yes, happy Tuesday, Ronnie.
This weather, though, makes me just want to, crawl in bed and watch Netflix all day.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning, I look out the window, and my first thought for the day is, why? What are we doing here? Right?
Well, I will say the good thing about all this rain, it's watering my flowers for the deer to eat.
Yeah, good for them. Yeah, it's, I'm glad the deer are enjoying all this droopy weather here, but it's depressing. And then you walk over here and you got a disaster scenario in our front parking lot over here. At least we got a nice pool out front now.
Right.
Not quite sanitary, but it's no lily pad springs.
I'm gonna have to bring a curling iron in because when it's dreary like this, your hair just.
Yeah, it's. I would imagine it's awful.
So I will say, though, this morning, Trixie Dixie is getting up and getting around.
That's
this
good.
Dog, too, has learned how to manipulate me.
Of course.
And all she has to do is do and, I'm worried, are you still sick? Did you pull a stitch or something? Because, she's having some problems with her stitches now. And no, she just wants me to go over and rub her. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Just pet her. And then it's so I had to put a bed right next to my desk so I can lean down and pet the dog while I'm working. It's getting out of control. It really is. And but this morning it was so exciting. So she's starting to be able to go on a little bit longer walks.
That's good.
And we go this morning. As we're walking onto the trail, we see a mama deer and her baby. And the babies are just so cute. They're so cute.
Yeah.
The little spots. And then we go out on the trail. There's a frog. So she tries to eat the frog, which means, she's getting better.
Sure.
And then as we're, we go down the trail a little bit and then we cut through back into our backyard, look over and there's a big buck staring at us. That's the first time I've seen the daddy deer. And he was like, I was like, Trixie wanted to stare him down. I'm like,
That's probably not the best idea, Trixie.
And, he did the hoof thing at us. So I was like, just go ahead. Just finish eating the flowers.
Yeah,
There's only a couple left on the top.
Right. Yeah, that's fine. They're your flowers. It's fine.
Right, exactly. So then I go inside and I open the window and we have a bench in front of it for the dog to lay on so she can look outside.
Sure.
And here comes another baby and another mama.
Oh.
So I feel like I hit the jackpot when I wake up and I get to see all that Mother Nature in our backyard.
Yeah, it almost makes losing your flowers on a daily basis look still not worth it,
I know. You know what? I have a rule. For the most part, the potted plants, okay.
What are you gonna do?
But when they start eating my hydrangea, which I talk to get them to bloom, and when they start eating those, then I get mad. Then I chase them away.
What you need to do is teach your hydrangeas some self-defense tactics so that they can fight back against the deer.
So we put bars of soap.
Okay.
You hang them, like Lever soap or something. I don't know. Somehow or another it works, and we feel like it won't harm the deer too.
Yeah.
But and my potted plants, how when you buy them at the beginning and they have the flowers, but then the greenery in it with as well, you could tell which ones they don't like.
Yeah.
So the greeneries are doing great, but then you have these stubs with just all the flowers gone.
Yeah, they like what they like, and they don't have any regard for your garden.
Oh, but I'll tell you what, Tyler, this weather, come on, Mother Nature.
It's the worst.
I got that new paddleboard, kayak. I've only been out once.
Yeah.
Once.
Right. Yeah, you're ruining summer, Mother Nature. This is April weather. It's April showers bring May flowers. Then you have summer. Summer's supposed to be nice and sunny and ridiculously hot and humid. We're okay with that, but rainy, chilly, droopy. Enough. It's disgusting.
Oh, because summer is so short.
It is.
That's the problem. It's so short. And so we need to enjoy every single day.
Right. Pretty soon we're going to be freezing our you-know-whats off, and we need summer.
It was surprising, though, when I walked out this morning. It was like the muggy machine was turned back on. And typically when you have that front come through, you have cold air behind it.
Sure.
But not this one.
No, it's staying very warm, and it's getting more humid, which you would think wouldn't happen with all the rain we've had, clearing that out of the air, but here we are. Another curveball.
The mosquitoes. Oh my gosh. I
bugs.
think I got bit 4 or 5 times on this morning's walk. I'm like, oh.
Right, exactly. It's like, get away from me. I'm not that special. Move on.
Yeah, it's going to be really bad.
Right.
Hey, do you say fireflies or lightning bug?
I usually say firefly.
Because I will say, I don't know if you noticed lately, or
Absolutely.
maybe it's in our backyard, but what a show. I mean, they are really lighting up the yard at night.
Yeah, I've seen them a few times on the sidewalk going back between our building here and West Bloomfield Parks, because of course we're parking over at West Bloomfield Parks, and so I've
You're
seen
here
them
that
many
late?
times. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm here late. Yes.
Oh, did you catch them when you were a little boy?
I tried to. I don't think I caught very many of them.
You know, you put them in a jar
Yeah,
with
yeah.
grass and punch the hole in the
Yeah.
top.
No, I didn't go that far. No. I did catch like snakes when I was a kid in the Boy Scouts. We had problems. We were problem children.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, Trixie likes to hunt snakes.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. The other dog, golf balls. That, a good
Little
thing
little
to
boys are like dogs. They're dumb.
Hey, so for everyone out there jumping into the headlines, here's another one for us. As someone who got the J&J vaccine, remember before I was scheduled to get the vaccine the day
Yes.
that they shut down the usage of it. Ended up getting the vaccine anyway. Well, now U.S. officials are flagging what they're calling a small reaction risk with the J&J vaccine. So Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine may pose a small possible risk of a rare but potentially dangerous neurological reaction, according to U.S. health officials. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said in a statement it has received reports of 100 people who got the shot developing is it Guillain-Barré syndrome? It's an immune system disorder that can cause muscle weakness and sometimes paralysis. That number represents a tiny fraction of the nearly 13 million Americans who have received the one-dose vaccine. Most cases of the side effect were reported in men, many 50 years old and up, usually about 2 weeks after the vaccination. CDC said it would ask its panel of outside vaccine experts to review the issue in an upcoming meeting. Another headline that at a time when we have so many people hesitant to get the vaccine, maybe not something to help convince people that it's safe to get it.
And the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being the third of the 3 major vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, and of course Johnson & Johnson in the United States to come out, this being the third one, you would think that they would have waited a little bit longer considering the effectiveness and the relatively light, if any, side effects that have been noticed with the first 2 vaccines before they released this third one. That being said, these have only been found in very small cases, and they don't really know a whole lot about the connection between this syndrome and the vaccine directly at this point in time. And it's different from the previous risk that they came up with the blood clots, where they found that to be severe enough to let's pull this off the market until we are for sure that this is not going to be a common and more dangerous side effect than what we're seeing. In this case, I think you can take some solace in the fact that the CDC and the FDA have not recommended pulling this vaccine back off of the market with this small reaction that they're seeing right now because of the risk being so small.
Hey, we've talked about this quite a bit on the show. Oakland County sees historic drop in public school enrollment during the pandemic. We talked about enrollment numbers with so many of our superintendents throughout the pandemic. All but one of Oakland County's 28 public school districts saw a drop in enrollment during the 2020-2021 academic year. Of course, a year filled with challenges due to the pandemic. But Carolyn Clearhout, she's the Oakland Schools Pupil Services Manager. She's anticipating enrollment numbers to return to more normal levels this fall, with the majority of students enrolled for in-person instruction 5 days a week. She said that school districts across the county are going to see a very large increase in kindergarten or first grade enrollment compared to last year. Keep in mind, last year, Oakland County had about 6,000 fewer students in its public schools, of which the largest portion were kindergartners, a trend that continued at the state level as well. 29% of the enrollment decline, or about 1,700 students, was among kindergartners, with parents choosing to either homeschool or to hold their kids back a year. If public school enrollment does not recover to the level that many school administrators are anticipating, schools could eventually see funding cuts down the road. Although right now, keep in mind they're getting the federal pandemic relief money. It's boosting the budgets for the state of Michigan, receiving about $3.7 billion in K through 12 funding from the American Rescue Plan. But we do know that school count or child count is so important for so many of these school districts, and probably even more so now because they've upped the dollars attached to each pupil. So they need those kids to get back into the schools.
Yeah, the public school systems definitely need these kids back, and I would expect, much like Carolyn Clearhout here from Oakland County has said in this article, I would expect to see some of those numbers of students that did leave the public school system over the course of the pandemic return, because they could be getting comparable education in person from their public school versus the private school or the charter institution that they went to over the course of the pandemic at no cost necessarily to the family beyond the tax dollars that, of course, are contributed to the school districts. And I think that the reason that there was that mass exodus, or that small exodus from these school districts, was because parents were clamoring to have their kids be in person, and generally those charter schools and those private schools were more so doing that during the pandemic, because they weren't tied necessarily to all the state regulations like these public schools were. So I would expect there to be more coming back to these public schools, and on top of that, because of the virtual options that a lot of these schools are providing, with having entirely online curriculum as well, and providing those options to their students in some districts. That being said, those districts that are in areas that need the funding even more to fund their schools because of the inequities that are in the system, having kids return to those public schools are going to be critical coming out of this pandemic.
Well, I think for so many parents, if you could afford it, everyone knew that having your kids in the classroom, for most kids, is a better option. And so if they could afford it, they were going to do so.
Right.
But what do you do if you're a parent and maybe the child did better in that school? Do you send them back to the public school? Because we have to remember, yes, while in the fall they are pushing for all the students to be back in the classrooms 5 days a week, we also know right now there is no vaccine for kids, under the age of 12. So is that going to be leading to more outbreaks? Because we are starting to see some of these outbreaks being reported at summer camps. So is that going to continue to happen in the fall time, and then these schools have to bounce back and forth between remote and not remote?
Yeah, that's another big question, is the vaccine situation, especially because, as we noted yesterday in our articles here, school districts generally cannot provide the information to parents about which teachers versus others are vaccinated, which students or classes of students have enough vaccinated students in them in order to be a sort of herd immunity within that cohort. And so that also creates more variables in the situations for parents to consider. For those that have noticed that their kids have performed better in online situations or in hybrid situations, I think that we could also see some crossover and some parents jumping from school district to school district based on their hybrid or entirely online programs and how they compare one district to another.
It's such a confusing time.
Very.
For the school districts, but also the parents, because they obviously want to do what's best for their kids.
Yes.
Hey, another sign. We're getting back to normal. Lions football. And the Lions announced they are going to plan to be back to full capacity for the 2021 NFL season after playing in front of only friends and family during the COVID-19 impacted 2020 season. The Lions say several considerations were factored when making the decision to welcome back fans, most notably the state's vaccination level. More than 60% of Michigan residents aged 16 and up have received at least one dose of the vaccine. So the Lions did say, though, they're not going to require proof of vaccination, and face mask will not be required. Fan activities, including tailgating and zip lines, will also be returning as scheduled. They said they reserve the right to go back to no fans should the COVID-19 situation worsen before or during the upcoming season, which starts Sunday, September 12th at home against the 49ers. Single game tickets go on sale 10 a.m. Wednesday, July 28th at lions.com. For me, I'm about the tailgate.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans are going to be excited, particularly because of the experience. Obviously, the product on the field has been god awful over the entire history of this organization, dating back to any time after about 1955, 1956. But that being said, I think with the new administration that's in place there, in terms of their new general manager, their new head coach, some of the player personnel they've brought in, there's a lot of excitement there. And on top of that, something that people enjoy, not sports fans, sports casuals, and non-fans alike, is the experience of going to the stadium, going to the game, especially in the case of football, where there are those tailgates and there are those pre-game and post-game experiences, and of course the fun of the experience in-game as well. That's going to be a big drawback. And I do like in this situation, the Lions have said, look, this is the situation we're in right now. The state's guidelines have changed. The state's COVID-19 vaccination situation is looking positive, and it's moving slowly forward, but it's moving forward. But we also reserve the right that should we see things change with the Delta variant, with other variants that may pop up along the way, with the potential for surges in COVID-19 cases, which is unlikely, but a non-zero chance we can always pull back to, and that they're being upfront about that, so that there are no surprises for fans and for the community alike.
Well, remember last year they did shut down all the popular tailgating locations as well. Detroit police went and did the rounds to make sure people were not tailgating to watch any of the games. So that will be returning, and we know for so many of the businesses in that downtown area, Eastern Market, that means so much. If I remember correctly, it's been a few years, but I think to tailgate in Eastern Market, you have to buy a ticket, a parking pass, which is like $30-40. So that's a lot of money into the Eastern Market Association, but just throughout that area. And I know some fans that actually drove to other states to attend some of the games, because while we weren't open for fans here in the state of Michigan, other states were, like Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So the fans were going to the other states and still taking part in the Lions experience.
Yeah, I do remember earlier on in the pandemic, during the previous Lions season, talking to the Tub Gators as they were traveling with the Lions to go to some stadiums where they could tailgate and have a little bit of that experience. Of course, that interview is still on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, or civiccentertv.com, and click on demand, and it'll take you to a place where you can search for that interview and see that. But fans were traveling with their teams, whether it be football or other situations, and having them back in the stadiums with the current situation that we're in, with the guidelines that are no longer in place, and the allowance from the state to have full capacity in some cases, or most capacity in these full capacity at this point in all these stadiums. It's going to be huge for, of course, everybody that works in those organizations, being able to be back at work, for the businesses that are inside the stadiums and in the local area. And you think about places like the District Detroit that has all those businesses that moved in just before the pandemic and were impacted by this, by all those businesses downtown, a lot of them small independent businesses. Having these teams back there gets people exploring, it gets people into the city, and it benefits not only the Detroit Lions and the fan base and the team, but the entire city of Detroit.
Well, and let's just be honest. People are diehard Lions fans. They don't, no. They support them even when
we're insane.
They're, let's just say, not very
Which is
good on the field, but we still support the Lions. So we'll have to try to get on Crackman, Ron Crackiola. He's one of those super fans, and I know that he traveled to some of the games as well, and actually went for the draft.
Yes.
So maybe we can try to get him on this week to get his take on that. Yes. With that, as a reminder, you can always check out the latest headlines. Go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus. That's where we post them each and every morning. And then, of course, at the top of the page, direct links to resources that you may want to check out, including the CDC. So if you want to kind of follow along with the Johnson & Johnson decision, go to CDC and check out the latest news right there. With that, we'll take a break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we have a full lineup for you today on the show, including after the break, we are going to be talking, several people will be joining us here to talk about Main Street Pontiac. What is it and why you should care and get involved as well. They have some cool things coming up. That's next here on the Megacast.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function,
which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sophia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. I'm Vernita here in the studios alongside the one, the only Mr. Tyler Keefe. Just as a reminder, we're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon, live. And for those that may be just joining us for the first time, the show's actually well over a year old now, which started way back in the beginning of the pandemic as a way to try to keep the community informed as to what was going on with the pandemic, because everything was changing so rapidly back then.
Yeah, we had changes every single day. We had new information every single day. We were trying to chase it like everybody else and try to keep everybody ahead. And now we're just trying to keep people informed about what things are going to look like as we start to emerge from the back end of this pandemic, hopefully.
Right. So while this summer seems a lot different than last summer, we should recognize that we are not out of the pandemic just yet. And we're hoping to not go back to where we were. But in the meantime, we are continuing the show, continuing the conversation with so many community people about how they're not only navigating the pandemic, but also looking ahead. And for us right here in this area, Pontiac, we talked to Bob Wan yesterday about Pontiac and a lot of the exciting projects that are going on there, because it does seem Pontiac is one of the forgotten cities. It sits smack dab in one of the wealthiest counties, and yet here we are with a city that has not been thriving. And so there's a lot of excitement and a lot of things happening in the city of Pontiac to bring it back to its glory days. Pontiac used to be the really hip place to live back in the day. With that, though, we're excited to bring in a whole host of guests here on the Megacast. We're talking about the new nonprofit in Pontiac. It's called Main Street Pontiac, and it really is geared towards trying to bring together separate entities and individuals to make that downtown area the cool place to be. And so with that, we have with us on the show today Vernita Duvall. She's the vice president for Main Street Pontiac. Daniela Walters, she's the treasurer and co-founder. Chris Jackson, president for Main Street Pontiac, and Jennifer Lucarelli, who is a representative for the Oakland County Sheriff, pal and friend of Main Street Pontiac. Great to have the four of you on with us.
Yeah, nice to be here this morning.
So I know it's a little awkward having multiple people in an interview, especially via Zoom, but we're all pros at this now. We'll figure it out as we go. And Chris, you're the president, so if we can start with you, tell us about Main Street Pontiac. What is the mission?
So the mission in Main Street, I guess we're still in our infant years, right? We've been around for about 2 years, going on 3 soon, and so the mission of Main Street Pontiac is to be advocates to the businesses in the downtown community. We aren't your traditional DBA or downtown business association, but where one of those don't exist in the city of Pontiac, we try to fill in those gaps. We work really closely with the city, with the businesses in the community to understand what the needs are. And we try really hard not to duplicate efforts. And so our mission is to really help other organizations that are doing things for downtown Pontiac and fill gaps where we can in order to have a vibrant downtown, because we believe that if the downtown is in good shape, it tends to be that the rest of the community follows. We just need to work really hard to figure out how to piece together the community side of it and the business side of it. And that's usually where we find ourselves in the middle of that.
So Vernita, if I can bring you into the conversation, you start this right before the pandemic, and then COVID-19 hits. Did it sideline your efforts at all?
Slightly, but the good thing is that we all, I think we all make a good team because we all come with different skills and talents, and so we were able to transition and get things back in order pretty quickly. And virtual was an asset, and we have a lot of avenues that we cover individually in different areas. And so I think it was just a matter of time before we all came in sync. So we had a hiccup initially, but it didn't take long for us to get back together.
We've all had hiccups throughout this pandemic. And, sometimes too with that, we have to, I try not to use the word pivot, but we've had to reimagine how we operate. And Daniela, as someone that's the treasurer and the co-founder, how have you had to do that over at Main Street Pontiac?
Yeah, when we started up we really started up in 2017, and our focus was more so on the buildings and the center and the community and people and being very interactive. And we found our place last year in actual COVID relief efforts. So we were able to help raise funds and distribute those funds to the restaurants. And then from the restaurants, they were able to provide meals to those in need in the community at the time they needed it most. So it was a win-win for Pontiac residents and Pontiac businesses having COVID relief efforts. We did a restaurant brigade program, a mini grant program, and we continued on with our efforts in Flagstar Bank's Pontiac's Big Idea grant program that we're partners in.
So with that, Jennifer, if I can ask you, how do you get the community excited about this project?
Well, I think that what we learned from the pandemic is that people are really hungry for community and connection. They want to come together around really nice, new, innovative project ideas. They want to make friends and know their neighbors. And so the skate park project is just another venue for that to be happening.
So tell me more about the skate park project then.
Yeah, so we're really excited that the city of Pontiac was the only community in the state of Michigan that was awarded a skate park project matching grant opportunity. It's formerly known as the Tony Hawk Foundation, so they've rebranded themselves a little bit. And so we have up until November to raise $250,000 of matching funding in order to build a state-of-the-art skate park in the city of Pontiac.
How do you think you're going to raise that money?
Well, it's really interesting. The pandemic has changed a little bit of that, and it's definitely a multifaceted strategy. There's been a lot of grassroots efforts at raising money. There's been a lot of small local organizations that have been supporting it with several $1,000s. We'll be asking for some larger business and corporate sponsorships. We'll be doing crowdfunding because what we know is every dollar counts. If you can give $5 to help support this project, that really matters to us as a community. And I think that there's some really interesting funding opportunities that have come out of the pandemic. A lot of the American Relief Funding Act discussion has been around supporting parks and recreation. Governor Whitmer announced yesterday millions of dollars of additional funding for parks. So I have no doubt that we're going to be able to raise that $250,000 by November.
Yeah, and we know that the skate parks in Detroit are huge attraction sites, even the one over on the east side by Conant. People come from all over to be able to enjoy the skate parks because you don't see them as often. Hey, Chris, if I can bring you back into the conversation, can I ask you the Phoenix Center and the latest developments with the Phoenix Center? We're seeing it be revisited and, a lot of excitement being built back into the Phoenix Center. How is that going to play into the strategy for downtown Pontiac and your mission?
Yeah, so it's really the Phoenix Center, the Ottawa Towers, right? It's really one of the bookends of our downtown, right? It's one of the most visible and notable locations in the city of Pontiac. So it's really important for us as deals have been completed now that we continue to try to execute on residential housing, on revamping the Phoenix Center to attempt to return it to whatever its former glory was. But I think it acts as a catalyst more than anything else. I think that because the opportunity for housing and events is coming with the Phoenix Center and the Ottawa Towers. I think what you'll see, including medical marijuana in downtown Pontiac, including more restaurants in downtown Pontiac. I don't think any one thing ultimately makes the difference, but together I think there's a catalyst that's being created, and it's been a pretty exciting time, despite the pandemic, right? For growth in downtown Pontiac specifically.
So can I ask you mentioned the medical marijuana facilities. I know that some people have been upset in Pontiac because more and more of the businesses have been sitting empty, the buildings rather, as these business owners were waiting to see if they were going to be granted one of the licenses. So where does that stand, and how does it work into your overall plan or vision for that downtown area?
It's no question that the buildings that were sitting empty was a harm to our growth. But so was the pandemic, right? And the licensing process was happening during the pandemic. And so, I think we need to allow some grace from that perspective. The important thing is that licenses have been announced in downtown, and now it's just going through its process. And I know some folks are upset, but at the same time, if anything worth doing is worth doing right. And so even if it takes a little bit longer, even though it hurts some pockets, the important thing is the long-term success of downtown Pontiac, and I think we're starting to see it right now.
Hey, Vernita, I was in downtown Pontiac a couple weeks ago. I think they had the art jam, if that was the name of it. It really was a cool setting. How do you take all of these elements and put them together and make Pontiac cool again?
Well, I think what the goal is to keep adding to it and creating that excitement, continuing the momentum. And another initiative that we're taking on is the Pontiac Farmers Market. And so we had an event on June 27th. It was a preview, and it was so exciting. We had so many vendors and so much activity and excitement around just being able to bring some activity to Pontiac to close the gap with the community. And I think that's been our goal. We have considered Pontiac also a food desert for quite some time. Yep. And so having nutrition and those great avenues available and accessible and also affordable to Pontiac citizens has been a worthwhile journey. And so we're excited to announce more events coming up around the Pontiac Farmers Market to create that momentum and continue with what our efforts to bring the community together.
And Vernita, I'm glad that you mentioned the community. And so much attention was put on Detroit about not having grocery stores, but Pontiac didn't either. No one seemed to even mention Pontiac being a food desert as well. And to me, it was very parallel to what we saw in Detroit. So it's exciting to have the farmers market come back. But when we talk about community, I know that in Detroit, in them developing the downtown, a lot of the people in the neighborhoods felt they were ignored. How do we include the entire community in this effort?
Well, we take it to the community. We give them what they want, and we show them how to prepare foods, how to find foods that are affordable. And I think what we're planning to do in the future is have small pop-ups in every districting community that we have in Pontiac. So that's going to be key.
Daniela, if I can ask you, as the treasurer and co-founder, what are some of the other things that you have on the agenda for the summer?
Yeah, so I highly recommend everybody come visit downtown just for an evening out. So hard work from all of the restaurants in the community and businesses was putting together the circuit. And the circuit is downtown Pontiac's social district. So most of our restaurants are participating, and they can actually stop by, grab a drink, and you can stroll with your beverage on the sidewalks and in the back alley, enjoy the art. And in that time, you can actually enjoy our program called Canvas Pontiac. We partner with the Detroit Institute of Art now for our 9th year. The program has been running, and it's an art competition that has grown from local artists to now world artists. We receive entries and submissions from as far away as Italy. And these end up being canvases that are printed on 8x10 large canvases and put throughout downtown with a walking map. And we encourage people to come and stroll our downtown, grab a beverage, grab some food, stroll and enjoy the art.
So that's so cool. And I will say, you know what's so sad about this is we're like so close to Pontiac, and we have people driving from our communities all the way to Detroit to be able to do some of the same things that are right here in our backyard. So with that, it seems like we have a lack of marketing. How do you guys attack the marketing? I don't know if maybe Chris, do you want to take that question?
Yeah. I mean, and Daniela, I mean, our executive team, Vernita, we've been talking about this, but it's kind of that third place concept, right? Where you have the first place for most people is their home. The second place is their workspace. The third place, as it is where everybody else gathers. And so downtown, Main Street Pontiac in this case, we're attempting to recreate that third place for folks in the community. But to your point, marketing is an issue where if we can, and we're in the process of developing a marketing plan as we speak, where we don't necessarily cannibalize marketing dollars individually, but collectively find ways to push a sense of healthy competition. Because if I'm a restaurant and I have an individual identity, and there's another restaurant that has another identity, by way of us inviting people by way of our marketing dollars, to those folks, they're going to innately go try everything else that might be in the downtown area, right? So we're actively working on a plan to make sure that we're marketing the entire downtown where it could help and impact all of the businesses at one time.
So can I ask you as well, when we're talking, what is happening with the Slows Barbecue, that spot?
That spot is no longer Slow's Barbecue.
Did they rename? Is it a new restaurant? I thought they did such a cool job, though, especially how they went into the high school and repurposed some of the bleachers and items out of the schools, which back at that day they were, being illegally scrapped and demolished, and they did such a cool job with that. So what's there now?
So right now, it's a space that's available for any hip restaurant that's listening to the interview right now. It was probably a little early. It was right before other things were starting to happen, and it's really hard to be the only thing necessarily that has the national attention that a Slow's Barbecue has, right? And so I think it may have been just a little bit early, a little bit before its time, but like I said, it's a space that's available for a thriving and a growing downtown now.
So with that, one last question, Vernita, how can people find out more about Main Street Pontiac?
Visit us at www.mainstreetpontiac.org, and we will lead you the rest of the way.
That's so great. Well, we appreciate all the work that your team is doing behind the scenes. It seems like for the first time there really is a plan of people from the community, the business owners, the business leaders, and activists coming together to really see Pontiac grow. And I think that's a great thing because we know hopefully with Amazon and M1 and, United Wholesale Mortgage, that means that this is going to be the backbone and the time for Pontiac to soar. So thank you all for your work and what you're doing to try to get it there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we were speaking with Chris Jackson. He's the president for Main Street Pontiac. Daniela Walters, the treasurer and co-founder. Vernita Duvall, vice president, and Jennifer Lucarelli, who is with the Oakland County Sheriff PAL organization, but also helping them out in that Main Street Pontiac. I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah, they're doing great things over there, and they have a plan in place. They're at least making plans to move the city forward and capitalize on the momentum that Pontiac has right now. I mean, they've made great improvements in that city, and they have really, despite the trials of the pandemic, have come through a lot stronger than they were before the pandemic, and things are looking very good over in the city of Pontiac.
We'll take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be speaking with the Vice President for the Workforce Development and Rehabilitation over at JVS Human Services, the work that they're doing to get people back into the workforce. That's next here on the Megacast.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Thanks for being with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios with Mr. Tyler Keefe. Just let you know that you can always catch previous episodes of the show. Go to civiccentertv.com, click on the Megacast. There you'll find the full episodes going way back to March 2020. And then also if you just want to check out an individual interview, you can do so by going to the on-demand section. A few years ago, I did a story about, some of the homeless people that I forget what the promo was, something about begging in the burbs, how when you go up and down Woodward, you see so many people on the street corners begging. I remember talking to a couple of the people, and one of the big issues is if you have had, a few bumps in your life. For many of them, they had felonies. They were, addicted to either alcohol or substance abuse. And even when they got clean and sober, trying to get their feet back on the ground and restarted in life could be a challenge, especially when coming to look for a job because of their record, and also trying to get all of their documents that are needed for them to get back into the workforce. So it's great that we have services such as this at JVS Human Services. James Willis, he's the Vice President for the Workforce Development and Rehabilitation over at JVS Human Services. Great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me this morning.
So I know that you guys have a new program for janitorial training. Can you fill us in? What is this and why did you develop it?
Sure. Well, to start off, it's actually not a new program. It's a program that JBS has offered in the Metro Detroit area going on 30 years now. However, over the course of the last year, we've really vamped up this program, providing janitorial skills training to individuals with disabilities with the huge need that we've seen across our region for increased cleaning due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Many employers, as a part of their kind of return to work policies, needed a level of cleaning and janitorial services that they didn't have previously. So we saw a huge need for talent that had specific skills around deep cleaning and had a talent pool, a disability talent pool that was eager and ready to work, but just didn't have that confidence and or background to jump right into those jobs. And that's really where the janitorial skills training program that we offer at our Detroit facility really kind of filled that gap in preparing job seekers with disabilities to fulfill these needed roles in the community.
So with that, James, can I ask, are you able to fill the positions, because it does seem the need is so great right now?
We're doing really good. I will certainly say that our labor orders in terms of just numbers of openings certainly is surpassing our talent pool of people going through the program. So, and it's great for our job seekers. You know, for every individual who participates in the program, they're usually coming out of that program with 2 to 3 offers, which is a great position for folks with disabilities who previously really kind of struggled to break into the employment market previously.
You know, there's always a silver lining coming out of a crisis, and this may be one of them for some of your clients. So tell us more about the actual program. How long is it?
Sure. So it's an 8-week program, and we divide the program up into 2 different phases. So the first phase is kind of our basic skills training, where we're going through the basics of janitorial environmental skills activities, you know, the mixing of chemicals, the different kind of steps in cleaning a room where you're starting with certain surfaces and then moving to other surfaces, some of those safety measures and that kind of thing. And many of our job seekers after that 4-week program have enough skills and confidence to go out there and secure employment at that point. So some of our job seekers and some of these job seekers just generally have a need to get into employment. So after 4 weeks, as opposed to continuing on for that additional 4 weeks, or what we refer to the advanced program, they move straight into job placement or straight into a job. For those job seekers that are looking for something a little bit more advanced, they will continue for an additional 4 weeks, and that additional 4 weeks really dives into some of the more specialty cleaning, like specialty kind of floor cleaning using scrubbers, buffers, carpet cleaners. The other piece that we kind of embed into both our basic and our advanced programming is what we refer to as super skills. Some people refer to those as kind of social skills, but providing those job seekers with what to expect once they get to the workplace, you know, how to deal with that difficult coworker, you know, how to kind of deal with requesting time off, and just some of those skills that, you know, job seekers or workers that have been in the workplace for a long time kind of take for granted. But if you're a new job seeker, you know, initially making contact for the very first time, you know, in today's employment market, there's some things you need to know to be successful. And embedding those super skills into our training program, we have found really is useful, because that way our job seekers know what to expect, and the employers are getting an employee who is demonstrating those super skills or soft skills that are needed to be successful.
James Willis with us here on the Megacast. He's the Vice President for the Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS Human Services. And James, if I can ask you, COVID-19, do you have some people in your program, some clients in your program who are hesitant to go into the workforce because of COVID-19?
Absolutely. You know, kind of going into kind of the pandemic, we were initially seeing, 10 to 20 different individuals, kind of entering our program. And we offer our program on a rolling basis. So every 8 weeks, another cohort starts up. And previous to the pandemic, we were seeing 10 to 15 to up as high as 20 individuals starting every 8 weeks. Throughout the pandemic, those numbers really went down. And again, like I said, despite kind of our referral numbers going down for people participating, there certainly was still kind of a need. We are very excited to, notice kind of an uptick in numbers. We're finding that individuals with disabilities and just the general public is starting to find a comfort with kind of re-engaging in the workplace, certainly with the incorporation of the vaccines and infection rates kind of going down. We're certainly seeing an increased number, and part of the reason why we're here today to kind of let people, individuals know that there are opportunities out there. And this is, one of the things we'd like to kind of mention related to janitorial work. It's one of those jobs that is not going anywhere. It's a very stable job, and it's one of those positions that boy, once you get yourself into that job situation and demonstrate to that employer that you're going to be what we refer to as MRD, motivated, reliable, and dependable. You present to the workplace with those three attributes, it's going to be a good partnership between that job seeker and the employer for a really long time.
So with that, also, James, we know that because there is an employee shortage right now, some employers are paying more. Is that the case in this arena as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're seeing, from many of our job seekers, opportunities for signing bonuses, increased rates. So yeah, our job seekers are certainly in a good position right now with increased wages and those signing bonuses that are being made available. And it's kind of necessary. Like I said, when our job seekers complete our program and have that certificate of completion, like I said, they are interviewing with 2 to 3 employers and really having kind of their pick of the opportunities out there, which is awesome.
Yeah, because I would think if I'm an employer and I'm having someone come out of your program, it makes them more desirable to hire, more attractive as an employer. Now, are we talking about, are these jobs part-time, full-time? Do they come with benefits typically?
Sure. So it really kind of ranges. We are working with opportunities that range everything from part-time to full-time. Those full-time positions certainly kind of come with benefits. Some of the settings where those full-time positions are available, your hospital settings, many manufacturing kind of factory settings kind of offer full-time and benefits right from the very onset. But there's also that job seeker that is really looking for part-time. Some of our job seekers are still possibly, finishing up with some sort of training program, whether or not at school or kind of technical training. So they're just looking for something to kind of add to bring some additional income. So those part-time opportunities are really great for many of our job seekers as well.
And can I ask, does this program, do you have to have certain qualifications or to even be able to apply for your program? How does that side of the house work?
Sure. So we have a couple of different kind of referral sources or funding sources where people kind of come to the program. So our program is specifically focused on individuals with disabilities, and the disability populations that we work with include kind of a general disability population, and that's really any disability ranging from a mental health diagnosis to a developmental disability to even a physical disability of some type. So that's kind of our general kind of disability population that we work with. And then the other population that we work with is a veteran population who has a service-related disability as well. So these are veterans who were involved in some sort of accident or some sort of incident that resulted in some type of disability. And if an individual with a disability is interested in this program, the program program that they need to be kind of connected with is the state VR program, referred to as Michigan Rehabilitation Services. And if an individual is not currently connected with that organization, they can certainly reach out to us and we will help them with connecting with that organization so that they can participate.
So just if I can clarify, so your program is paid before they even get employment, correct?
Yeah, so one of the things that we found with the janitorial training program, or just training programs in general, is people need income to survive, so, spending 4 to 8 to 10 weeks of training, you need some income in there to pay the bills, to pay your rent and, keep food on the table and that kind of thing. So one of the things that we've learned over the years is that we need to provide a stipend while people are participating. So the way we structure the program is we offer kind of that classroom hands-on training in the first part of the day, kind of in the morning. And in the afternoon, they're taking those skills that they learned and translating them into real work where we're able to pay them a stipend wage while they're participating in that training.
So when seeking employment, do you have contracts with the various entities that you typically work with to try to get your trainees, jobs with those companies?
Absolutely. So we have a couple of different avenues that we support job seekers in that transition from the training program to work. So one of the avenues is just supporting them through the job search process. We have many employers that contact us, know about our training program, have found really good luck, with the motivation, reliability, and dependability, with our job seekers. So when they have job openings, we're one of the first people that they call saying, hey, we have this job opening, these are the hours, this is the pay and the benefits. And as our job seekers kind of finish their program, we're looking at transportation, the hours that are being offered and looking kind of for that match. So that's one option. And then we also have some contracts where we are actually the employer and we're providing that janitorial service for a particular employee. And the job seeker is would potentially be or is an employee of JVS at that point.
Hey, so can I ask you, I know that we had someone on, it's been a few weeks, with the, I think Michigan Works, and one thing she was saying that now is really the time for people to seek jobs because the signing bonuses and the higher per dollar wage may be going away when that additional federal unemployment money runs out, because then you're going to have more people entering the workforce. So is now a good time to try to get those jobs, and can your trainees try to negotiate with the employers?
Absolutely. So you're touching on something that I don't think a lot of people know about, and that is, and you're right on target, that many of the state and federal incentives or supports that are out there for unemployment will be expiring this fall. And as those start to expire, we're going to see many, many job seekers kind of come into the market. And when they come into the market, they're all going to come into the market in the matter of a month or two. And we all know when the supply of job seekers is high and the supply of opportunities is low, that there's certainly going to be a shift. So you're right on target. If you're a job seeker and kind of on the fence right now of engaging in employment, this is certainly the time to do it, because those signing bonuses very well could start to kind of drive them, kind of move away. Those higher wages that employers are certainly offering right now, we're definitely going to see those start to kind of tail off. And the other piece is that you are correct. Yeah, employees are, kind of in quote unquote a power position right now. So that if that initial wage that is offered, from that employer isn't really what that job seeker is looking for, they are certainly in a great position right now to kind of negotiate a better wage.
We're talking with James Willis, the Vice President for the Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS Human Services. James, before we say goodbye to you, how can people find out more information?
Absolutely. So if an individual or family member is interested in participating in our program and would like to get more information, there's a couple of routes you can do it. You can go to the JVS website, which is jvshumanservices.org, or you can just give us a call. The staff person that manages our janitorial training program, her name is Vernita Carter, and she can be reached at our Detroit facility, and that number is 313-833-8100.
Well, James, we so appreciate your time, and thank you for all that you're doing to help get people back into the job force.
Thanks for having me today.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. We'll be back after this break.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get vaccinated?
I'd like to go to these school dances and spring break to have fun.
I want to be in person for college next semester.
I want to get out of this pandemic.
I wanted to protect the people around me.
Why did you get vaccinated?
Because I'm really looking forward to hanging out with my friends.
I just want to go to a show, dance around, not have to worry about anything, feel like I'm free again.
So we can not miss out on the best years of our life.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function.
Which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
Great to have you with us for the second hour of the Megacast. You can catch Tyler or myself Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon live. Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can find us on cable. Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 on AT&T. We're also on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And if that is not available to you, if you're hanging out back in the office, surfing the internet, you'll find us on our Facebook page, live streaming today's edition of the Megacast. One thing, nothing says summer like the county fair.
Yes.
Did you go to the fair when you were little?
I have, yeah. I did go when I was little a few times. Mostly when I was pretty young, like between 5 and 10 years old. Not really much after that.
I'm from a very small town in Ohio, and when the fair came to town, it was a big event because there was nothing else going on. Right. Everyone went to the county fair. It was so much fun. And I will say, for a few years working for ATF, I got to go out to the county fair. They have like a first responders day. And you go back and you're like, it takes you right back to your childhood, And the Oakland County Fair is back this year after a hiatus last year. And with us now, we want to bring in L.C. Scramlin. He's the general manager for the fair. Great to have you with us, L.C.
Well, it's great to be with you folks, and it's great to be with people again.
I will say all I'm thinking about is one of those big elephant ears.
Oh, we've got them. You better believe it. And people have been lined up for them, and it's funny. It's kind of a joke that the lines have gotten a pretty good size sometimes, but you talk with people, and everybody says, "We don't care. We just want back a taste of normal." And an elephant ear is a great symbol of normal life again.
Right, isn't it? It's the little things that we totally miss. And with that, for those that aren't familiar, the fair is actually underway right now. It runs through Sunday, July 18th. But where is the fair? Because it can be a little bit hard to find.
That is true. I mean, it's one of those things that's a little negative, but an awful lot of positive, that we're out really for Oakland County and rural Oakland County, little town of Davisburg. We're on the Springfield Oaks County Park, part of Oakland County's great park and rec system. And we have an agreement with them that the fair's here. And we're celebrating 50 years. This is our birthday year. 50 years we've been here at Springfield Oaks. And so it's, like I said, once you're here, people feel like they're out in the country, and that's true. Unlike a lot of fairs that have been right in the core of a town, and the towns have grown up around them, we are still out on Andersonville Road, which is a 2-lane pavement. But when you're here, I think people just love the atmosphere that they've come to the country to tie themselves back to one of the real traditions in this country. Because the Oakland County Fair, our roots go all the way back into the 1800s.
What?
Yeah, there's a monument in Pontiac. The fairgrounds back then was in Pontiac, and on Fair Avenue, just off Saginaw in Pontiac, there's a big monument, stone monument, that the community was thanking the Fair Board for allowing them to train troops for the Civil War in 1861 at the Oakland County Fair.
Wow, look at that history. We learned so much.
That's history.
You know, we probably have all passed that a million times in Pontiac and never really stopped to look for it. I'm going to go on a scavenger hunt this week and try to find it.
There you go. Yeah, just take Saginaw. So many people, when they're coming north on Saginaw, turn and make the Y there onto Oakland. But continue straight onto Saginaw, cross over a wide track, and you'll come, one of the first streets is Fair Avenue. And you'll look to your right, and there a little lot that's, it's 4 or 5 feet tall, a big stone monument with that. So that tells a little bit about history. But we made history last year, unfortunately, a way we didn't want to. But we're making we've so far in our first 5 days, we have just about doubled everything as far as attendance and that. And it's just been wonderful to see the response of people this year wanting to get back to that tradition.
So with that, Elsie, can you give us a little bit of a behind the scenes of what it takes to put on the fair?
Well, and that has been a struggle, there's no question, because as you were mentioned with one of the previous guests that I was listening to, this shortage of manpower right now has been a real struggle to find help. And of course, really, we weren't fully able to know that we were going to be able to go forward with basically a normal fair until just about 5 weeks ago. So that was a pretty short time to put everything together to have over 100,000 people coming. Just the logistics of that, of making sure that everything from bathrooms to trash removal and all the other events that we have, the contracts and that are in place. So quite the scramble, quite a difficult time doing that, but it's all certainly been worth the effort so far, that's for sure.
And we should say to anyone going, have some patience, because as you said, you try to put all of this together in 5 weeks, because it's hard to know where we are. I know for us here, the St. Mary's Festival, it was canceled again this year because you just never know. And so when you get the green light, it's full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. Yes, and so it's been tricky. Most people have. I mean, the lines for the rides and food concessions have certainly been noticeably, truly, especially Friday and Saturday, the first weekend, everything was double for our normal. And we had some pretty good attendance to begin with. But each of those days, we had double, almost exactly double our normal attendance for those days. So I must admit the lines for getting onto the rides and some of the food venues, even to use the restrooms, there were lines. But truly, I've been very pleased that people still have as I mentioned earlier, boy, you talk to them as they're standing in line waiting for an elephant ear or their roasted ear of corn. People have just said, we want to be here. We are just thrilled that this is happening at all. So it's been quite a rewarding thing to see the smiles and the attitudes of people that as we get back to normal.
So, Elsie, if I can ask you, because you did just mention rides, and of course, the video of the ride in Traverse City at the Cherry Festival went viral. Luckily, no one was hurt, but I'm sure you're getting all the questions about the rides there at the fair and the inspection process.
Yeah, I was sure all these TV interviews and that they just wanted to hear me, but mostly it was about that. And of course, we know the Arnold family personally because I work with our new state fair down at Novi, and the Arnold family that have the carnival at the Cherry Festival is the provider down at the state fair. And so we felt very bad for them. It was a fluke. We've talked with our ride inspector here what happened, and the fact that it was a mechanical thing that really couldn't be evaluated once in a 500 years or something that accelerated that motor and made that ride go faster than what it should normally. And just thank goodness that we know that we've scrutinized the rides here even more. Each ride every morning is fired up and ran in front of an inspector before it goes into operation for the day. And so, of course, you just feel like you have to just even go a little bit above and beyond what you normally do, just with that in mind, realizing that, our safety is certainly our main concern for all of our people coming to the fair.
So if someone is going to the fair, they haven't been before, or they haven't been in quite some time, what are some of the fan favorites at the fair this year?
Sure. Well, one of the new features that we have is a high dive team. And boy, they're up there about 70, 80 feet in the air, jumping into a small, looks to me to be a real small tank, but and catching themselves on fire and then diving into a tank of water.
What?
It certainly catches your attention, yes.
Oh my gosh.
When they said they had that, I couldn't hardly believe that, but sure enough, that's how they open each act, is by catching the diver on completely on fire, and then he jumps into the tank of water. But he stands there for it seems to me for an eternity before he jumps. But anyhow, we have a great wood carver here with his chainsaw. We have exotic petting zoos. We have the racing pigs that people have loved for quite a few years, racing 6 or 7 times a day. And we, of course, we have all the young people here with their projects, showing their livestock and all their skills, from everything from computers to sewing still. So all those things for the general public to view. We have crab races, hermit crabs racing, a butterfly exhibit. There's something for everybody, and it'll bring back a smile. And as you mentioned, bring back some of our, we have a tremendous agricultural background in this country. Really what this country was built on is our success as an agricultural society. And boy, it'll bring you back to help you remember where your food comes from. And even better than that is where our next generation of leaders come, these young people that have brought their exhibits and that here to show what they have been able to accomplish.
LC Scramlin with us here on the Megacast. He's the general manager for the Oakland County Fair. LC, I have to say, when I was growing up, my friend, they lived out in the country and they had cows, and we, you take the cow to the fair to show the cow, and you clean it, you braid its hair, we would help it. And cows have the most expressive eyes and very long eyelashes, and you get attached to the cow. But then the cow gets sold,
of course,
to go to the block, and then you're like all sad.
Well, that is one of our learning experience with our young people. I've seen my 3 children come through, and we've spent some long nights as they've said goodbye to that. But at the same token, they're excited to realize that they're helping to feed this country and feed people, and so it's one of those little mixed emotions, but it's a great thing to do as far as a parent. It changed my life. With my parents, I was always involved in the fair and 4-H. I've been through it now with my 3 children, and then today, my grandson starts at 6 years old. He's his first year exhibiting here at the Oakland County Fair. So another generation. So it's another exciting time to see them come along and keep the tradition going.
And have you seen there is more of an interest from the general public coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic? Because especially in the beginning, it really put a focus on our food supply and how and where we get our food from.
Oh, you most assuredly, because for one of the really first times for a lot of people, there was a question about whether there was going to be food when you went to that supermarket. And, that is not, thank goodness, and one of the great successes in this country has been the thing that most of us are not used to. We're just assuming that Myers and Kroger and all those the shelves are going to be filled. So they do. And so they've asked more questions and more interest of the kids and us as adults walking around. I've had more questions asked about the food supply and what we saw last year and how it's being rectified now moving forward to try to make sure that we have safeguards more there, that we don't run into that problem.
So we know the fair runs through Sunday. What are the hours and what is the cost?
Okay. It's not. We open the gates at 9 each morning and we run till 11 o'clock each evening. It's the admission is by the carload, so pack that car right to the brim. It's $12 for a carload. Come on in.
That's a great deal. That's the best deal of the summer.
We believe so. That's true. And most everything that we have talked about is free. I mean, all those acts that I just talked about and seeing the exhibits, that's all free. There is a charge for the carnival. And there's different days with discounts and that. Go to our website and that tells it. Then we have grandstands, and so we're going to have rodeo the next 2 nights, a figure 8 race. The demo derby will be back on Thursday. Boy, that's one of the traditions of the county fair, is especially here in Motor City, that we have a demo derby to smash up cars. So people love that. And the monster trucks will be here on Saturday. So lots of great entertainment in front of the grandstand. That's a separate charge. But like I said, for $12 a carload, you can come and sure spend a good share of the day enjoying yourself and having some fun.
Hey, are you doing the First Responder Day this year?
Yes. Yep. That's Thursday.
It's always a good thing, because I will say the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, they have all the cool toys when it comes to law enforcement. And, working for ATF, all we have was one big truck. And Bonnie, the dog. Everyone loved Bonnie.
Good old Bonnie.
But, Elsie, it's been great having you. We so appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you folks having interest in giving me this opportunity to tell everybody about what's happening out here. We really, really appreciate that. Thank you. And just thank this country and the first responders for bringing us through this thing. And just great to be here.
It is. Like you said, it's just enjoying those little moments. They mean so much to us this year. And happy 50th. How's that?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Again, Elsie Scramlin with us here on the Megacast, General Manager for the Oakland County Fair. It is going on right now. It runs through Sunday, July 18th. The Great American High Divers, that sounds crazy. That is worth the drive out to Davisburg right there.
Yeah, that sounds completely insane, and I love it. It's the fact that they're just like, yeah, let's just casually set someone on fire and they'll dive into a pool. That sounds very interesting to me.
I remember the last year we did it with ATF. It was so hot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was hot and it was muggy, and we were in a separate area than the rest of the fair, and because you were down, and like DEA was there, FBI, everyone brings out all their toys, but it really is just a way to be able to talk and interact with the public and then let them see some of the tools that are used on the job. But it was just blistering hot, so at least this week it's cooler.
Yeah, well, in that case, it felt so hot out there. You felt like you were being set on fire, and you needed to do the high dive into the pool. So
I know. They had so many cool things going on out there. So take the kids. Go out to the fair.
Sure.
We'll take a break here on the Megacast. When we come back, talking about the kids and summer learning. That's on the agenda next here on the Megacast.
Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Trevor Project is sharing how you can support LGBTQ youth who may be at risk.
It's simple. Just show them that you care. C-A-R-E. Connect. If you noticed any warning signs of suicide from someone you know, reach out to them.
Ask. Ask directly. Are you thinking about killing yourself? It might be challenging, but talking about suicide is proven to reduce risk.
Respond. If they open up to you about their suicidal ideation, honor that trust by responding with compassion and empathy.
Empower. Talking openly is a great first step, but now you can empower them with the information and the support they need to improve their situation.
Learn more about how you can show them you care and help prevent LGBTQ youth suicide. Visit trvr.org/care.
To Sofia and Gabriel, even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios with Mr. Tyler Keefe. If you can't catch us every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon, we kind of understand, but you can still view our previous episodes of the Megacast. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on Megacast, or check out the on-demand section for the individual interviews. So after you take the kids to the fair, because there's a lot to learn at the fair.
Of course.
There is still summer learning. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think they really call it summer school any longer, do they?
No, it's all about marketing. You want people to, we're learning over the summer. We're not sending you back to school all summer, no.
Well, summer school, or summer classes, summer learning has changed a lot over the years as well to try to make it a bit more engaging for the kids, especially after this past year. Stacy Weller, she's the Dean of Instruction at the West Bloomfield Summer Learning and Middle School, and Aaron Avery, Dean of Instruction for Lakers Online K through 12 School, join us now on the Megacast. Great to have you both with us.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So, Stacy, is it called summer school or no?
We do opt for summer learning most of the time. Yes, you caught us.
Because I think about summer school when I was growing up, and that usually meant someone flunked out of something. Had to retake the class.
Yeah, but really what we're just trying to do, at least at the middle school level, is just boost those skills. There's been a lot of skills that have been lost in the last year, not just academic skills, but social skills as well. So that's what we're trying to work on at the middle school. And I know Aaron at the high school.
Right, high school is about lost credit to start with, but there's a larger component to that as well. Trying to address the things that cause them to lose the credit. So it's usually not just that the class is hard or that they had bad attendance. There's other things going on with individual learners that can definitely make it hard for them to succeed in school. So a broader scope this summer.
Yeah, because Aaron, I'm also thinking there are some times where maybe the power's out at your home or your computer is just glitchy that day and you're missing that class. It could be hard to catch up, and some people just don't learn well over, online.
Yep, and a large portion of our student body was online all year. I worked as Dean of Instruction for Lakers Online this year. And this summer, I'm seeing that since we're working with both former online learners and former in-person learners in this program, we see them coming in with many of the same problems. It could have been technology issues. It could have been that they had family members who were sick or died from COVID. All sorts of things contributed to these children struggling academically. And usually the poor grade is just a symptom of something bigger in their life. So trying to equip them with tools to the extent that we can do that, and to help them self-examine and really see that they can empower themselves to have a future of their choosing if they focus on making good little decisions at a time and are put in an environment in which they can be successful is our goal this summer.
Yeah, and Aaron, it sounds like from what you're saying, those are life lessons as well.
Yeah. Yep, that is a big deal. One of the biggest life lessons we want our students to take away is that if you handle the small things in life, usually the big things take care of themselves. And it's the little things that usually get us jammed up. So that means that there's just little things, we can tackle that, we can do that. And being able to look at each decision as something that either empowers us or disempowers us is a good way for them to see that they have a lot of control over the outcomes. Even coming through COVID during a time where they felt, and many of us felt, honestly, we had very little control.
So, Stacy, if I can ask you from the middle school side of things, how are you approaching the summer learning program this year compared to years past?
Well, we were excited to try something a little bit different. Instead of just looking at cores like English and math, we decided to add in an elective piece as well. So we have these phenomenal teachers on board, these elective teachers who just were willing to take this gigantic risk with us. And so what we ended up doing was like a cycle of 3 hours in a day. So a student will come in their day and they'll have their English class. So they are working on their communication, their writing, their reading skills. Then they'll go to a math class somewhere in that cycle. But a third part of the cycle is that they go to this elective teacher. And every day for 12 days, they had a different small elective experience. So maybe one day they would try robotics. The next day, their teacher would do something with photography. Some kids were working on coding and like making mini video games. Some other kids were trying drama for the very first time in their life. And so now we are in the last week. And after they've had all these elective options, they get to choose one concentration. And they made a driving question for themselves to try to explore a little bit deeper. So some kids really got into the drama and they're writing an entire play in the next 3 days so that they can perform that on Friday. Wow. There's other kids who started making a video game and they want to know if they could have this video game reflect a story that they read at one point. So they're now working to build that. There's just all different kinds of individual learning going on. Which I think is part of what draws them to want to come during the day and have that math class and that English class where the things are a little tougher to do, but they've got to boost those skills. And then they've got that elective piece to really look forward to as well. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback on it and tons of smiles as kids are leaving the building and telling us about their day. So it's a good thing.
So do you think that you're going to continue that in years to come because it seems to be so successful?
I don't know. You know, that's something I know I want to talk with Aaron about. Right now, what he and I are doing was we're gathering all kinds of information from the kids. We're taking surveys and finding out what did they like, what did they think could be, done even better. We're surveying the teachers to find out the same things, looking for some feedback. And we'll take all of that to try to build the program moving forward.
And Aaron, if I can ask you, how are the teachers doing? Because I know it's been very stressful for them over the past year. So when you say, hey, teachers, you want to come back for the summer? Did you get a lot of people volunteering?
Not at first. We had a few who jumped at it, but it required some recruiting, put it that way. The cool thing is that we ended up with the first question I asked the teachers when we got together for our professional development for this, I said, look around this room, just, look what you see, look at what you see. And they looked at each other. I said, we have an amazing veteran staff, a staff that's probably never been seen in summer school before. And so for so many reasons, after a number of conversations and some ongoing persuasion, we were able to get a group of teachers in here to work with the kids this summer that are just outstanding. They're really what's driving the success in the program right now. But it was hard. And I do have concerns about that going back into the school year only 2 weeks after we end this. And I hope that it'll be okay. I think it will, because this has gone better than I imagined it would. And I think that a lot of people are finding that it's not just good for the kids to get used to school and have a positive school experience again. It's been good for the teachers to come in and have a positive school experience again. There's a reason we all do this, and being able to realize that reason again before we get back into a full-blown school year has been important for everyone.
So are these classes in person then?
They are.
What a difference.
All in person. It's a major difference. It's a huge step forward. And we have 2 90-minute classes a day. So we start at 8 and we end at 11. And of course, that's broken up with our Excel meetings. And we have a field trip tomorrow to the tree runner course, which is going to be really cool for the kids to try something new. Most of them haven't been there. And so it's a risk, right? And we want to kind of roll that into this idea that taking a risk on doing well in school is possible, and taking a risk here at this park is possible too. So, you know, it's broken up, and in general, we're doing great.
So with that too, how has this been having to think outside of the box?
Stacy, you want to jump on that?
You know, I think that I have to say the idea of doing the electives and the cycle and whatnot, I laugh all the time with Aaron. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did we ever figure that out? He has this amazing mind where he put all the pieces together and he's like, this is how it's going to work. This is how they're going to be able to go to all those things. So I've never been a part of anything like this before. I can safely say, I don't think the kids have ever been a part of a summer camp that's allowed them so many different options. At the very end, to be able to choose anything in the entire world that they're interested in learning more about, and then having a teacher guide them through how to find that information, discover more of that, and then to show it all at the end. Like Aaron said, we would not be able to do this if it were not for the passionate teachers that jumped on board and were willing to take a risk right along with us. And some of our teachers the other day, before we started this last bend where they had to, work the kids through creating a driving question, and we got back together at the end of the day and I said, okay, how did things go? And every one of them said, I was really worried this morning, like giving kids that much freedom to choose anything at all that they want to study. And every single one of them said it was amazing. The things they came up with they were truly incredible. And they're really excited to go forward. So I think Aaron's comment about taking a risk, it's for teachers too. We're all just trying something new. And so far, knock on wood, it's worked out all right.
So it's kind of like going back to school for the teachers.
It's exhilarating that way. It is. Like Aaron said, it's about finding that passion again for why you wanted to do this in the first place, to be able to think outside of the box, to be able to try something new. Really exciting.
So Aaron, do you think if you would have proposed this a few years ago, any of it would have actually come to fruition and as quickly as it did?
No, and not because it's not a good idea, or that we did not because we wouldn't have wanted to do it, but a crisis can cause change really quick, and people can see the need for it when it happens. And this, I hope that this will have some staying power, because I see the kids benefiting, and I think the teachers are having a positive experience, and the feedback will be good. The other day, a student came in and we asked, I actually was in the room, but 2 of my colleagues were. They said, how's summer school going? And she said, I love summer school. Everybody does. And to me, I couldn't, that was probably one of the best things I could have heard, because this has been hard. This has been hard to get going. And to hear that from a kid in the middle of summer after a pandemic, it was about all I needed to really make this worth it. So I hope it will have a lasting impact on the way summer school is done. I think that summer school is ripe for improvement for many, many years across the country, and we can do it better, and it can be kid-centered, and it can be a positive experience. It doesn't need to be a consequence only. I think summer school has been viewed as, oh, you're going to end up in summer school if you don't do this. And now, why should school ever be a bad experience, right? If we want kids to come and learn, I think it's important that we have positive relationships, that kids want to spend time with us, that they see the benefit and the meaning from being in school. And I believe we're on that path right now. There's always room for growth, but I think we're closer to that now, at least in summer school, than we've ever been.
And let's hope people really come to appreciate school for what it is, and that experience of going to the classroom, and the teachers and the training that goes in to teaching the kids. Sometimes we kind of forget about that.
Yeah, it's very easy to forget. It's like anything. If it happens all the time, and you take it for granted, right? And all of a sudden you're without it, and you realize, geez, without community, without interaction with other people and teachers in person, without having someplace to go every day and being able to be hands-on and to use my body, right? And that matters. It just does.
So I think what we're seeing is that we're putting people back into the center of education. Sometimes we get so caught up in the subject matter and what it is that we have to learn that we forget about looking around the room and making connections with each other. And I think that after not having that for so long, the teachers are taking the time, the students want to have that time to be able to connect. And then that makes them look, be able to work so much better together when it comes to the academics. I really do see more connections now than I've seen in a very long time.
That's great to hear. And we do know that there are some kids that go to school just for the activities and those elective classes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What they look for.
Well, it's whatever it takes, really. Let's get them in the building. That's the big thing. The other day I was talking to a parent and she was so concerned about what's going to happen with her kids in school. I said, don't worry about that. Just get them to the school. We'll take it from there. So whether it's athletics or social, they need to be in the classrooms. They need to be with their teachers. We all need to grow together. That's really a foundation of our country. It doesn't work in isolation. So whatever gets them in the building, gets them in the building. And we can do our work if we have kids with us. Without them, we don't need teachers.
So are you a little concerned going into the fall that we could have another surge and go back to remote?
I mean, maybe I'm concerned as much as anybody, for health purposes. But I think educationally, what we've learned in the last year is that we can turn and bend and flex with the best of them. It's been incredible what I've seen teachers do, what I've seen students come together and do even on Zoom. We're learning that it's a whole new way of learning. So even if it comes to that, it's not a great thing, but we'll be able to handle it moving forward. We've got some incredible teachers who've done some things I've never seen ever before in education. It'll never be the same.
Can you guys come up with a summer learning course for adults for us to go back and play as well?
Please.
Oh, man. Okay, maybe.
Well, I'm going to send you a survey.
There you go.
Thank you.
Get a survey going, sure.
We'll welcome your suggestions.
Well, we so appreciate both of your time as well. Stacy Weller, Dean of Instruction at the West Bloomfield Summer Learning and Middle School, and Aaron Avery, who is the Dean of Instruction, Lakers Online K-12 School. It's been great talking to the both of you, and I hope that you are squeezing in a fun vacation this summer because it's well earned and deserved.
Thank you very much.
I hope so too.
What a year our educators have had, but so great to see that they're being innovative, and let's hope there's some positive things that come out of the COVID crisis, and that being some changes to our education system.
Yeah, I think a lot of these changes that, as Aaron and Stacy pointed out, were changes that were necessary and were things that were on the minds of educators over the past several years and over the past decade, really, and that the problem that the education system was facing was implementation and having this crisis. If there's anything positive that can come out of it, it's that it forced school districts to have to innovate and to have to do things differently, and in doing so allowed the creative process to accelerate to a point where these kinds of programs could come into play. And for what they're saying, there's been a great benefit to that for students and the educators alike.
Right. Bring the fun back in education. We'll take a break here on the Megacast, just about 20 minutes left in the show. And when we come back, we'll be talking technology and how one person has used the pandemic to spur a new business. That's next here on the Megacast.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all?
You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs.
The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's a second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Welcome back to the Megacast. Just about 20 minutes here in the show. And I will say one thing. Over the past year and a half, we have all come to understand just how important technology is to us each and every day.
Yeah, we absolutely have. It's become a critical part of our lives in every aspect, whether it be personal life or certainly work life, education, all across the board. Technology has become even more important over the last 15 months plus.
And it's been great in connecting us. And our next guest, Chris Powers, an Oakland University alumni who used the time during the pandemic to start a new company, or at least polish the company. Chris, how are you doing? Welcome to the Megacast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So some of us are a bit tech challenged, but you're not. Tell us more about the app that you developed.
Yeah, so I think that there's two things that I'd like to discuss today. The first is a little bit of our collaborative work, which was a nonprofit effort during the pandemic through My COVID Response. That was sort of the grassroots disaster response project that spurred everything. And then second is our company Reciprocity, which helps nonprofits to scale their impact by reaching more people.
So if I can ask you, first, what's your background? What's your degree in?
I studied chemical engineering at Oakland University. Yep, so I've taken a few twists and turns along the way.
Well, we all do that in life. It tends to work out that way for us. So then how did you get involved with the My COVID program then?
Yeah, so really it started back at OU when I met my co-founder, Cam Underdown, about 13 years ago. And we had just sort of collaborated on different projects and remained friends ever since. And essentially what happened was I saw him launch the website My COVID Response on Facebook on March 14th of last year, right when Michigan was starting to head into lockdowns. Everyone was getting really scared about the pandemic. And what I thought at the time was the only way that we had to respond to an exponential problem, which was the virus, was to use another exponential we had, which was technology. So what we did was we just collected people who wanted to be volunteers, people wanted to help in some form or fashion, and people who were in need of assistance all into one place so that we could quickly mobilize resources, leverage partner organizations, and get help to people who needed it.
That really was genius, but to pull it off so quickly. Do you guys just jump in? What's it like behind the scenes there?
Yeah,
get a six-pack of beer and 20 pizzas and let's go?
Yeah, I mean, there were many nights where I slept right over here on my office couch and, just kind of literally worked around the clock. At least, I deserve, and the founding team deserves a little bit of credit. The major credit goes to the thousands of volunteers that signed up, the 120 plus partner organizations who stepped in to connect critical services to people in need, and to the sort of dozens of hardworking people, core volunteers from different parts of the university or the community who really stepped up to help people.
So with that, can I ask, you said it was Cam, right, who started this project. Did he have funding from the state of Michigan, or how did this work?
Well, it was really, in the beginning, it was really just bootstrapped. So we just kind of launched it and then picked up partners along the way. We did, throughout the process, partner with Oakland University through kind of Jen Lucarelli and Pontiac Community Foundation through Dustin McClellan to secure some grants. But that was more for sort of the organizing side, like the community outreach side of things. And then we partnered with Lighthouse of Michigan through Jen Lucarelli to do an emergency food program. So that program started on the floor of Oakland University. Within 2 weeks, we were shipping out around 30,000 meals per week. And then 2 weeks after that, it was closer to 70,000. And that program is still in place. It served over 11,000 people, connecting sort of more than 50,000 food deliveries. And to be clear, Lighthouse is the one who was sort of the principal funding and operational partner. So that project is currently still alive and well and functioning out of a warehouse in Waterford, Michigan.
Wow, talk about just jumping in and it's like you make things happen. You know, sometimes you can't think about it, you just jump in and do, and you're doing this in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, and that's, you know, when I called one of my friends who is experienced in disaster response, I asked her what kind of advice she had, and she said that in a disaster, the willing are the qualified. And so I kind of took that to heart and ran with it. And I think that we were able to do a lot of good for the people throughout Oakland County.
And tell us more about the app then. How does that work?
Yeah, so for the food side of things, if someone goes to mycovidresponse.org/volunteer/food, basically they can sign up to be a volunteer delivery driver, and they get matched with an opportunity to deliver food to a family that's requested assistance. So basically through Lighthouse, we connect people who are in need with people who can deliver food, and then Lighthouse is sort of the key infrastructure partner there. So really what we do is just create linkages between people in need, community leaders, funders, and volunteers.
And so with that, what did you three learn from doing this project?
A whole lot. It's, you know, this was not, came from an engineering and a business background. My co-founder Cam has launched multiple faith organizations and nonprofits. And then our third co-founder Josh is a developer, and I learned so much about public health, about community organizing, about nonprofits, about food programs. I think the biggest thing that I learned was that the pandemic really exposed a lot of the cracks in our critical infrastructure and showed how our systems might be failing people. I think on the positive side, though, what I saw was just a tremendous rallying of the human spirit. And I saw so many people rise to the occasion. And for every story that gets written about the pandemic, there are millions of others that I think will remain untold, of people sort of bravely going above and beyond or doing things that were not convenient, but that were the right thing to do. And in rising to the occasion, helping their neighbor and making the community stronger.
So do you think you would have been so successful without technology? Think about doing this back in the day, or even if it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago when we had AOL dial-up.
Yeah, I remember AOL. I used it for a while. Absolutely not. So one of the things that really enabled this project was the fact that we, within a week or two, were able to collect together thousands of volunteers and thousands of recipients, and then start to make those matches. And I just don't think that we would have needed a staff of dozens, or I don't even know how many people, to be able to do that with paper forms and sort of more of an old school way.
So where do you take this from here as we start to hopefully emerge from the pandemic?
Yeah, I hope so too. I think where we go from here is that we want to take what we learned doing this kind of massive mobilization effort And we want to use technology to empower organizations that are on the front lines helping people. So one of the things that we saw a lot of was that the executive directors of nonprofits are sometimes they're kind of overworked, or data management and marketing are two really key challenges for them. And all the time that they have to spend on those administrative tasks are time that they can't spend in the community doing what they sort of set out to do. So what we're trying to do is to give nonprofits and give service organizations the tools and the expertise to be able to dramatically scale their outreach and make their programs easier to do.
So one of the things, again, we're talking with Chris Powers. He's graduated at Oakland University and has been vital to the organizations in Pontiac and trying to bring people together throughout the pandemic to help one another. But I also wonder about those, especially more so our senior community, people that are a bit tech challenged. And are we leaving out a class of people that could really benefit from this, but they don't embrace technology, or maybe they don't know how to embrace technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm often surprised at how tech savvy older folks end up being. You know, I've seen, kind of many of them end up using Zoom and whatnot. But one of the reasons that we focus on empowering organizations is because many nonprofit leaders understand the challenges and the limitations of the communities they serve better than anyone else, because they talk to people day to day. And so that's why we choose to partner with these nonprofits and service organizations, so that they can tell us what the challenges or the barriers might be, and then we can work within the best of our ability to work around those things.
So are you developing any other programs or apps that could work in other arenas? What's in the pipeline?
Yeah, we have probably a few things that we're not ready to announce just yet, but right now we're working on building what we call the Community Resource Exchange. So what we're doing is helping nonprofit organizations and local organizers to put their programs online. So basically each program will become an application. And then we hope that once enough programs become applications, then we can hook them together and network them into the community. But for right now, what we're doing is focusing program by program.
So if I can ask you, Chris, because when I think applications, I'm also thinking apps on our cell phones and our smartphones. Or is this an application on your computer? You go to the website and you bring everyone together?
Yeah, so right now, in the first phase, we're focusing on web applications because they can also work on any smartphone, but then they're backwards compatible to a computer, like if someone doesn't have a smartphone or is sort of less tech savvy.
And because I've been to some of these disaster areas following hurricanes and flooding disasters in communities, and I think this is such a great way to bring people together. And also, one of the things some people don't understand, a lot of things get donated, and those hasty moments following a disaster, things that aren't needed, and it takes up valuable resources from the volunteers that you do have, and trying to separate and re-navigate where that stuff can go. And so is this something too where people can say this is what we need to streamline that process?
Absolutely. So when you have a more seamless transfer or flow of information, what you can do, or what we've been able to do, is we're able to take requests of the community and then find resources. Let me give you maybe an example. So I heard a story from a woman whose daughter was going to do a park cleanup project for community service hours to graduate. And she went to the park. The park was totally clean, and she just ended up staring at her phone for like 10 hours, right? And then not maybe more than a few streets over, we knew of service organizations that are helping people every day. They're in desperate need of volunteers. So what we hope to accomplish is to capture the demand for volunteers. And then if there's a pool of willing and able volunteers who want to do stuff for the community, to just make those connections easier. So that way, you know, like you say, things don't get over donated, things don't get misallocated, and helpful energy doesn't get lost.
So I'm thinking about this too. How important was collaboration and connections to you and the other two co-founders to actually get this off the ground and make it successful?
Absolutely vital. So, you know, we were solving a lot of kind of IT information and communication problems, but a lot of the organizations we partnered with were solving sort of more boots on the ground types of problems, like how do you pack enough food to feed all these people, things like that. How do you coordinate a virtual tutoring program? How do you give bikes to people in need? How do you coordinate vaccines to people who don't have transportation? Things like that. So we would not be able to do nearly as much, or we would have to secure a huge amount of money and end up reinventing the wheel ourselves, when really what we want to do is there's plenty of people out there who have expertise and knowledge to serve the community. And so we just want to help them to amplify their reach.
Do you think you would have been able to do this without the pandemic?
That's a good question. I think on a smaller scale, yes. I think when we started out, everybody was all hands on deck. And so a lot of the usual barriers to getting resources to people sort of melted down for a time. And I think that there was a lot of goodwill and a lot of willingness to collaborate that hadn't existed before the pandemic. Or maybe it was like, hey, we should collaborate, it's a good idea, but the pandemic definitely made it necessary. So it definitely accelerated the adoption of technology and the adoption of collaborative approaches because it was a crisis.
With that, Chris, if people want to find out more information, how can they do so?
Yeah, so if you want to help out on the food delivery side, we're still coordinating deliveries to families. They can go to mycovidresponse.org/volunteer/food. And then if you're a leader of a service organization that's interested in using technology to amplify your reach, you can visit reciprocityapps.org.
Chris, has been so great having you, and I wish you and your team the best of luck. For you to be able to do this and do it so quickly really is astounding. You guys are going places.
Hey, thanks. I deserve very little of the credit, though. It's all the people who are out there doing the work day to day.
So as an entrepreneur, any words of advice for anyone else out there?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I've been making it up as I've been going along. I think that maybe if I had to give advice to my younger self, I would say to bet on yourself. And if you think that you have an idea that can really work, to just believe and go for it.
You know, Chris, the saying is fake it until you can make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're actually doing it. So,
so you're not faking, you're making.
Fake it phase,
yeah, we're not faking it. We're actually making it. So
it's real.
Well, it's been great having you, and please extend our well wishes to your team members as well. Where are they today?
Oh, they one of my co-founders is traveling, and the other one is hard at work. So.
So that's okay. You could say you drew the short straw. That's okay. We understand.
No, it's been fun. Thanks for having me. I hope to come back.
It's been great having you. And again, thank you to you and your team. And, really an inspiration, because we do know so many people are looking at starting their own businesses during the pandemic. So good luck to Chris and his two co-founders as well. That'll wrap it up for today's edition of the Megacast. We'll be back here tomorrow, bright and early, 10 a.m. This has been the Megacast.